Welcome to this video on how to schedule interests in the ARIES application. Another video called Interest Definitions is available if you are not familiar with the different types of interests. This video concentrates on showing you examples of how to schedule interests. A list of the examples is shown on this slide along with the approximate time they begin in this video. If you are only interested in royalty interests, you can use the slider bar to go to 2 minutes 15 seconds. This example shows you how to schedule your interests if you know your working interest and net revenue interest. For this example, the working interest, also called WI, is 25% and the net revenue interests, also called NRI, is 20%. The keyword for the line is net. The working interest of 25 is entered in the second cell and the NRI of 20 in the third cell. The line ends with a percentage sign. You do not need to fill in the remaining cells. Sometimes the NRI for oil and the NRI for gas is different. Again, we use the keyword net. The second cell contains the working interest. The third cell contains the oil NRI and the fourth cell contains the gas NRI. The line is complete when you enter the percentage sign. Sometimes you know your working interest but not your NRI. In this case, you will enter the royalty interest and overriding royalty interests and use them to calculate the NRI. For this example, the WI is 25%. The royalty interest is 15% and the overriding royalty interest is 5%. The keyword used for this example is LSE. The second cell contains your working interest. The third cell contains the lease royalty, which is 15%. The fourth cell contains the lease overriding royalty of 5%. The input line is complete when you enter the percentage sign. Now, let's go through the calculations. The working interest for the entire lease is 100%. Subtract the royalty of 15% and the overriding royalty of 5% from 100. The lease NRI is 80%. Our working interest is 25%. So we multiply 25% by 80% and get an NRI of 20%. What if you only have a royalty interest or an overriding royalty interest? Theoretically, you would want the production to continue until the remaining oil or gas is zero. However, the working interest owners will only pay the expenses as long as the well is profitable for them. The working interest and net revenue interest for the lease are used to determine the economic life of the well. Therefore, when calculating royalty or overriding royalty interests, you must enter information so the lease NRI can be determined. In this example, I have a royalty interest of 7.5%. You must define the total burdens for the lease. The burdens are the royalty interest, overriding royalty interest, and net profits interest. We will start with an LSE line that contains the 100% working interest, the lease royalty, and the lease ORRI. Then we define an own line that tells ARIES what percentage we own of the LSE line. The total royalty interest is 15%. My royalty interest is 7.5%. 7.5 is 50% of 15. On the own line, I tell ARIES that I own none of the working interest, but I do own 50% of the 15% royalty. I also tell ARIES that I own none of the ORRI. Here's another method you can use to schedule a royalty-only interest. For this method, you schedule the lease net revenue interest on the loss no line. In this example, the lease NRI is 80%. You can enter the number as a percent or as a fraction. Then, in the ownership section, you define your royalty interest. Use the LSE keyword for this line. You own a 0% working interest. Your royalty is 7.5%. You do not have an overriding royalty interest. Now let's discuss how you should schedule your interest if you have both a working interest and a royalty interest. Although it is tempting to just add the net revenue interest and the royalty interest, this does not reflect the true economics of the well. The added interests mean that the well will produce longer before the economic limit is reached. The NRI you use must reflect the NRI of the lease, especially if there are other working interest owners. For this example, the working interest is 25%, the net revenue interest is 20%, and you own an ORRI of 2.5%. The economic limit should be determined by the 25% working interest and the NRI of 20%. If you add the NRI and royalty together, the production will run longer than the true economic limit. The lease line contains the 100% working interests and the burdens. The own lines tells ARIES how much I own of the interests. ARIES allows you to calculate lines using many formats. The two sets of lines shown here both calculate a 25% working interest and a 80% NRI. Both also give you a 2.5% royalty. Thank you for watching this video on ARIES interests. If you have any questions about this or any other Landmark product, go to landmark.solutions.